Hey there, welcome to the REI Conversion Podcast, where each episode we discuss strategies and digital tools to help you launch, automate, and scale your real estate investing business. Learn how to run your investing business remotely, find out ways to automate your business to better utilize your time, and learn what other successful investors are implementing so you can get to the next step closer to your investing goals. And I'm your host and founder of REI Conversion, Jesse Kwong. Hey, how's it going? This is Jesse here from the REI Conversion Podcast. Thank you to all of you who are watching and listening to this episode. Today, I've got a guest with me, which many of you probably already know. He is the guy behind Geek. So I'm going to be talking today with Mark Podolsky. But before we get into that, I wanted to let you know that this show is brought to you by REI Conversion. It is the REI Conversion Podcast. So if you haven't or you don't already know, here at REI Conversion, we help you launch your flipping and wholesaling websites to drive more motivated seller leads and to build your buyers list. These are beautifully designed websites that are powerful, strategic, and customizable. Now, because our site are built on WordPress, we have the power and flexibility to do a lot of creative things. We know that every one of you guys runs your business slightly different, and that's the beauty about WordPress. Like an iPhone or an Android phone, you have the ability to download different third-party apps which make every phone different and unique and function differently. And it's what we call plugins inside of WordPress. So if you have ever seen any fancy sites, a huge chance they're running on WordPress. And a beauty, again, of WordPress is the ability to use these plugins to do all sorts of things, from setting up chat boxes to having countdown timers and all sorts of different things. So make sure you check out REI Conversion and both our land investing and house investing themes and our plugins that we build for our sites as well. So today, again, I am excited to be welcoming Mark Podolsky here. Mark.
Jesse Kwong, thank you so much for having me and not shaming me for my looks, because
I was just gonna say I might as well just join you here.
It's getting bad in quarantine.
Man, this is what happens when we're all in lockdown. So it's totally normal here. So Mark, I brought you on here to talk about putting property on terms. I've seen you post before about that quite a bit, and it's something that I also do as well, but I do a lot of cash flips as well. I think I'm just going to hit you with the first question here. Why put properties on terms? And what's the advantage over that, say, doing just a straight cash flip?
Right. So the last thing we want in life is another job. And so really, I want to solve two big problems in life. I want to solve my money problem, sure, but I also want to solve my time problem. And to solve the time problem, I really want to have my passive income exceed my fixed expenses. And that means I'm working because I want to, not because I have to. So if we do a cash flip, cash is great. There's nothing wrong with it. You pay your taxes, then you go and you deploy the cash again. And then it starts all over again. It's essentially a really great job, but I'd rather make that money in my sleep. So I'd rather do a one-time sale, get the recurring income every single month, and not have to deal with it. Now I own the property, I have the underlying asset, and there's no cost of foreclosure because I use a land contract. So as long as I can create enough of these land notes where my passive income exceeds my fixed expenses, now I've solved my money problem and I've solved my time problem. But if I'm only focusing on cash flips, well, I start again from zero after that flip. Because now I got to buy another piece of property and I got to flip that one. I got to buy another piece of property, got to flip that one. And it's a wonderful treadmill, Jesse, but it's a treadmill.
Well, would you say there is a place and time for a cash flip? Perhaps somebody who's starting out who doesn't have much capital, or maybe somebody just came up to them and is willing to just, listen, I don't want to put it on. I don't want to pay the property every month. I'd just rather pay you once, type of thing. Would you accept it? And is there a place and time?
Yeah, there absolutely is. If you don't have a lot of capital to start with, I start with $3,000. So I flipped in the beginning. For years I flipped. Mm-hmm. Now, and there's definitely a place for it. Now, Absolutely. In fact, I had a guy went on this like epic tirade about terms versus cash on my own podcasts. And I got a Vox from one of my clients. He's like, Mark, I've got a client. She wants to pay me $90,000 cash. And I don't want to do it because he didn't need the cash. And he refused her. I'm like, no, Roberto, take the 90,000. Like, let her pay if she wants. Like, if your note buyer wants to pay off your note early, let them do it. But I certainly don't want to advertise that I'm only going to do cash. But yeah, absolutely, cash has its place and time. And I even have a course like how to double your money 30 days or less, teaching people how to generate the cash so that they can then build up their cash reserves so they feel more comfortable doing terms. I just think it's a big mistake to only focus on cash.
Got you. A question popped out of my head. I was just going to ask you something about cash, but anyways, let's jump to the next question here. So, can you talk about the three of the most common issues land investors are dealing with when it comes to properties on terms, and your advice with those three sort of common issues?
Yeah, so the common issue with terms, the first one is at some point I'm going to run out of money. So let's just take an example. So Jesse, you sell me a piece of property for $5,000, right? Let's just say it's 40 acres. And I go and I sell it for $20,000 on terms. Well, I get $1,000 down payment. I've got $4,000 of capital recovery I need to recover. Well, now I've got a cash flow issue, right? So at some point, terms is a cash flow game. And if you're going to play that game, you got to play it really well. So we use a profit first model, number one. And the second is we have lines of credit. So we raise debt all along the way because really, if I can borrow at 2%, 5%, 10%, 50%, it's irrelevant because I'm making, 800 to 1,000% on terms. So I'm using other people's money and then paying off that debt, and I've got cash flow to do it. Well, now once I get my money out, life becomes really, really nice because it's just all profit, all in really nice cash flow. But that's the first big problem is just running out of cash. The second big problem is the default rate because we don't do credit checks. Mm-hmm. So we get the down payment, we get these monthly payments, and then inevitably something happens in life and someone defaults. Now, from my perspective, not so bad because I already have confidence I can resell that property, get another down payment, get another note payer, and it just expands out my note, increasing my ROI. But if you're new to this, well, you're like, oh gosh, that stinks. And I got to resell the property. So that's the second sort of big problem. Now, in a good economy with no credit checks, we're looking at about a 4 to 5% default rate. In a bad economy, maybe 8 to 10%. In 2008, I lost 40%. No, sorry, 2010, I lost 40% of my note portfolio in the Great Recession. Now, as we're recording this, like you would think with quarantine, COVID-19, the economic uncertainty, like I had my best month ever in April. So far, so good. We haven't had a whole lot of defaults, but will that change?
Yeah.
I don't know. It could.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of people are having some of their best months this past April and March as well. So it's awesome to hear that. Okay, and then your third one.
So I don't have a third. It's really those are going to be your two biggest barriers in terms.
Okay. Well, let me phrase it this way. Are there any common mistakes that a lot of property owners make or in terms of putting property on terms and they won't realize until they've done it a few times? I would assume that the default rate, it would be one of those.
I think the structure is important. I think a lot of people don't have the confidence coming in to just say, hey, look, this is the down payment, right? Let's say it's $100. Well, then in real estate, there's fees. So we're going to have our note setup fee of $249. So now we're getting $349 down.
Right.
And then we're going to get charged a monthly note collection fee of say $12 a month. So a lot of people aren't that comfortable with it in the beginning, but you realize like very few people even question it. They're like, oh, of course, real estate. Now, if you're using software like I am, well, it's a set it and forget it system, but they don't necessarily know that there's no labor involved. But this really helps mitigate any software expenses that you have.
Well, and let's talk about that. And that's one of the things that I brought you on here. I'd like to chat about that. And I get a lot of questions when website owners and land investors are setting up their site. They want to use a payment processor. And I want to talk about what you've created, which is GeekPay. And that's been around for a few years now. Is that correct?
Yeah. Jesse, do you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
No, I don't.
Okay. So do you know about the show though?
I've heard of it.
Okay, so there's this guy, Larry David. He's co-creator of Seinfeld, and he's just like a really sort of difficult guy, and he just sees all the problems in life. And so he goes to this coffee shop called Mocha Joe's. This is last season, and Mocha Joe serves him cold coffee and bans him because Larry complains and bans him from the coffee shop. He's like, "You're banning me?" He's like, "I'm banning you." So what does he do? He sets up a spite store. And he starts Larry's lattes next to Mocha Joe's. And so GeekPay started off as a spite store because I was using another program, and it was like, I was like, oh my God, like they charged me money for a service call, and I'd bringing them all this business. I had the guy on my podcast. I'm like, that's it. This guy's no genius. I can do it just as well. So I went to Silicon Valley, and I'm like, who's the best developer out there? And I hired him, and I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars developing a spite, software. And if I knew what I was getting into, there's no way I would have done it, but I didn't. And then I was too far along. I'm like, that's it. And I just kept hammering away. And now we have thousands of users, and it's this automated system. It's great, but I don't recommend starting a software spite store. Anyone.
Okay, let's talk about it. So it's GeekPay. Obviously, it's to collect payment for your properties here. Right. What makes GeekPay sort of different from? I think you just sort of mentioned there, but from your other sort of other payment processors. Let's put it that way.
Right. So look, I don't like a note setup fee. So you go to like these companies that charge you for your notes. Like, look, it's hard to get a sale. Now I got to go and I got to charge them to set up a note. It's freaking software. No note setup fees, right? So I didn't like that. I didn't like the pricing. And then ACH is like really cheap to get. They're charging like ridiculous amounts of money to collect ACH. And then the float. So I didn't like that either. So I'm like, that's it. I'm going to find a better bank to work with and do that. And then I thought, well, what happens when the ACH fails? Well, the software guy's not going to make a collection call for me. And my whole philosophy of life is I can always make more money. I can't get more time. So what if we could charge the credit card on file as a backup? So that's what we did. So we have, when you set up in your settings, you're going to set up two automations. The first one being Stripe to collect your down payment or a cash payment. And then your ACH is through another bank, which you set up, and you go through the application process. But if that check does bounce, you can use the credit card on file, and you can go to, and you can have as many different payment processors as you want, like different accounts as you want. And you can go to your borrower and say, hey, look, you don't want to get a late fee. We can just do this as a backup. Now, you don't want to do it consistently, and for a variety of reasons that I want to bore you with the legal details, but you can't collect via credit card a monthly payment. You can't do debt on debt.
Right. Gotcha.
Once in a while, you know, it's fine, but not
it's there as a backup, really.
There's a backup. Yeah.
Essentially. Okay. And can you collect, so you can do properties on terms through GeekPay, and can you do a cash flip with GeekPay if you want?
Yeah, you can easily do a cash flip with GeekPay. It's really nice. You just set up, the link, you email them the link, they make the cash payment, it goes straight into your account.
And same with
super easy. And you can embed it on your website too. So Jesse, embed.
Yeah.
on those fancy REI conversion websites.
So we've got a field just for that, and so they can literally take your links, the cash or terms, plunk it right into the buttons that we have set up for payment options, and go there and check out and do whatever they need to do on your end of things. Now, can you have, say, several different options for a single property? For
You can create as many as you want. You can have different down payment options. Now, once you set up the term, well, then you're going to have to type in what the term they chose.
Right.
So, but that is just the set it and forget it system right there.
Right. And then generally setting up, is it tricky to set up the GeekPay account and getting
gosh, it's so easy. It's like you just click the little button, add a new loan. You just follow the fields. I mean, if I can do it, Jesse, anyone can do it.
And then what about opening the processor? So do they have to sign up for an Actum account or a Stripe?
Yeah. So through GeekPay, like you don't want to go to Actum without GeekPay. So you want to go through the system so that it connects to the API and you just go through the application process. As long as you haven't committed any kind of felony and you're bankable, you'll get approved. Okay. So Actum knows what it is and they don't charge you a monthly servicing fee. Like if you go to let's say authorized, well, not only authorized.net does, but there's some other processors out there that charge you a monthly fee. Yep. I don't like that. Like we're charging the fee. No more fees. I hate fees. I don't even like saying the word fee.
Okay, so for those of you that are interested in setting things up over with GeekPay with Mark Podolsky, you can head over to reiconversion.com/geekpay. That's GEEKPAY. And this will also be on our show notes and then also on the tools page here on REI Conversion. Is there anything that you wanted to add also and sort of mention about putting properties on terms? Is there anything I missed in that sense?
No, I mean, I just think that you really want to do it because it's going to solve those two problems in life that we all want to solve. I mean, I don't want to have to wake up and do something. I don't want to have to be somewhere at a certain time. And if all I'm doing is cash, well, I'm going to have to keep selling on cash.
Out of curiosity, what would you say is a good average number of properties to have on terms that'll come in every month that somebody would feel comfortable with and living off of that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on you. I mean, it depends on what your fixed expenses are. I mean, we have some clients, $5,000 a month moves the needle for them. We have other clients, $15,000 a month moves the needle. We have other clients, they need $50,000 a month that moves the needle. Sure. So it just depends on you. But that's the great thing about this business is there's no limit. Like mm-hmm. I know a guy who's at $250,000 a month and he's still complaining, but he's been doing it like longer than me.
Okay. And Mark, you also have a training program that's Land Geek as well, right? Can you quickly talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of information. So we have everything from free all the way to, premium one-on-one coaching. But the whole idea and the whole, mission is to get people out of what I call solo economic dependency, which means if you're not personally working, you're not making any money. And, whether you have a job or a side hustle or, you're a doctor or a lawyer, it's a one-to-one input and it doesn't scale. So we want to help people scale and get to that point in life where they can work when they want, where they want, with whom they want. And so the training sort of shortcuts all of that and really helps them get to where they want to be faster.
Awesome. Well, Mark, thanks again for coming on the show, sharing your thoughts about putting property on terms and also talking about a payment option, GeekPay. Again, I get a lot of questions about this, and I always find myself like, they're trying to pin me down for an answer, but I don't really have a solid answer for anybody. Here's another one. So it's reiconversion.com/geekpay and sign up, and I'm sure Mark's team will take care of you.
Anyways, absolutely. And then, we do the first month free so you can play with it. And we have free support. So we got the little blue intercom button and we have help.geekpay.io. We have demos. It's really, really easy. And we're constantly making it better because I'm a land investor. So I'm using it. I selfishly want to make it better. So we're all aligned on it. It's not like I'm a software company and I'm working with, equipment leasing and used car, people. Like I'm just working with land investors. Now, eventually I'd like to work with other verticals because I'm an entrepreneur and that'd be cool. But as of now, I'm not cool enough to do that yet.
Okay, Mark, thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate it.
Before you stop this podcast or head to the next episode, I want to personally thank you for listening to this episode of the REI Conversion Podcast. If you found this helpful, we'd greatly appreciate an awesome review and rating on whichever platform you're listening to this on. And if you have 2 minutes and wanted to step it up even more and help others, feel free to share this in other Facebook groups or pages or any communities, giving others a heads up of the REI Conversion Podcast or this specific episode that may help them on their investing journey. Once again, thanks very much for listening and catch you on our next episode.